Hello there, my YouTube friends and family. I thought I'd better put myself up here and show that I am so much better this week. It's Monday morning, start of a new week. COVID has pretty well left my life for the meantime, I suppose. I still have a slight little cough, but otherwise it's okay. Now, my little selfie stand unfortunately broke. My fault. I was a little bit heavy-handed with it, trying to adjust it. So I'm doing the old school, holding the phone in my hand today. So sorry about the close-ups. What's been going on? So I think COVID has been probably the highlight, not a highlight, but the focus of my health and well-being over the last week and a half. Again, so glad that I've moved away from that and feeling so much better. I managed to get out on the weekend and I had a very little bike ride, just a small one. It probably was a bit too soon to be out there on the bike. However, I think for my mental health, I had to get out and go for a ride because it really is my way to release and just get my mind feeling healthy. Went for a walk yesterday. Sorry, the window's open, there's traffic outside, so I told you from the very first video, the production values of this were never going to be great. So I went for a walk yesterday with my wife, and that was really nice. And I'm learning to go outside without my wig on. My hair is getting a bit longer, it's quite a lot longer actually. And so, yeah, I'm trying to learn to feel confident within myself without it, because eventually that's the goal, right? I don't want to have to wear as much as I love this wig, and I really like how this makes me look, and it has given me so much confidence. Here's a pro tip along the way: if you're struggling to feel confident in public, I wasn't never going to buy this wig or a wig. And it was my therapist that actually said to me, why don't you invest, like spend some really decent money? And so I just had a coffee. I just realised I've got chocolate on my lips. Why don't you spend some decent money and get yourself a good wig? She said, you'll be amazed at the confidence it will provide you. And it did. So getting out, I think, was really good yesterday, out in public, and well documented that I'm full-time female. This is my presentation every single day. Yep, so I just explained about the wigs. So that's getting a bit, and on the weekends, I usually have a no eyeliner rule on the weekends, and makeup is not as pronounced as it is now. So I'm dressed for work now. This is how I'm presenting for work. But just walking through the streets, just walking through public, and there's a lot of people out. It's Sunday morning, cafes are full of people, and maybe people are looking at me and thinking, but I don't care if they are, really at that point. I also bumped into one of our friends who lives down in Wollongong, but she works up here. She's a firefighter. I wasn't going to say fireman, and fireperson doesn't sound right either. She's a firefighter. So she was there getting coffee for her crew, so we stopped and had a quick chat to her, and I think she was doing the whole, the old scanning me up and down. Now, she was one of the people that was at the party I went to in Thredbo. So she saw me for the first time then, and that was over a couple of days. So it's no surprise, she well and truly knows this is who I am. But it was actually really nice that we just had a regular conversation, just talk about stuff. Usually it was about COVID and who's had it and who hasn't, but anyway, so that was good. And yeah, we just then we stopped and got a coffee ourselves on the way home. We did leave the kids at home just for a short time. We weren't gone for long, but yeah, to get out in the sunshine and to feel those rays on the body after being locked down for over a week. I think I'm going to sneeze. I hope I'm not, because that wouldn't be very attractive. Okay, all right, so another big call out is to my sister. I know you watch my videos. Thank you very much. You've been with me from the start, and for anybody else who's watching now, I recall when I came out to my sister, she just ran around from the other side of the bench and gave me a big hug and said, yay, the sister I never had, or the sister I always wanted. So, and you've spoiled me so much, and you continue to spoil me and make me feel so special and valid. So I think I've mentioned in other videos, if you haven't picked it up before, like the vast majority of the jewelry that I wear is from my sister. So thank you for your continued love and support. It's really appreciated. So there you go. You've had your own call out, your own shout out on my YouTube channel. I won't say your name but people, if they're savvy, they can go into the comments and it won't be hard to see who you are. All right, so I also wanted to talk today about, there was a question raised from one of my last videos, and it was somebody who asked me and wanted me to talk about how I knew that I was trans, and when my egg broke, and how did I come out, and how did that process work. Now, I know I've probably documented this in some other videos, so I won't go into too much detail, but hey, I always say if there's something you want to ask me, I'll always endeavour to answer it. So this is me answering. So look, long story short, it was the bulk of my life. I knew that something was there, that something was a little bit off, that, when you are when you're going to bed at night as a young child, praying to God that you're going to wake up in the morning as a girl, it's a pretty good sign that you are transgender. And the unfortunate thing was I didn't know then that that's what that meant. As a kid, you can't process those thoughts, or I couldn't process those thoughts I didn't know what to do with them, so they were just wholly and solely stuck in my head, and it was a daily battle. It was every night. I would be down on my hands and knees, I'm praying at the side of my bed that, God, please, when I wake up in the morning, I want to be a girl. And that never happened. So, I went through my entire childhood and adolescence and pretty much my adult life not really understanding and not really doing much about it at all, except for denying it, except for trying to self-medicate and do all sorts of harmful things to myself that in an attempt to make the feelings go away. That worked in varying degrees. There were times in my life where, I haven't had a miserable life. I haven't been, so depressed and couldn't function. In the face of all of this, since, like I said, from about 6 years old, I've still managed to forge a really decent life for myself. I've had a loving family that have supported me as I chose to present. And, apparently I did a pretty good job of being the stereotypical male person. And, I did all the things. I dated, always had girlfriends, always. It's like since I probably left high school, I was in long-term relationships with women, and to this day, I really can't say that I've been that single or on my own for the vast majority of my life. So 16, 17, up until I'm now 48. Oh, I know I don't look a day over 30, but you can agree with me in the comments on that if you like. But, I've always had a relationship there, and maybe that was a way of me to try to disguise again. But I've always admired women. I've always been fascinated with women and how they move and how they talk and how they look and how they dress and makeup, and I've always been infatuated by it. And I think maybe having a partner there, it was a way for me to be close to that, to see that close up and somehow vicariously live through them. I don't know. So the question about when did I know I was trans, honestly, that didn't come until way, way, way later. I always wished and hoped and prayed that I would wake up as a girl, and I never did. I wished there was some magic potion or pill that I could take. Never happened. It doesn't exist. Well, there are magic pills that exist. I've since found that out, but you've actually got to take steps to make that happen, right? It's not going to just happen for you. So honestly, when did I know I was trans? It wasn't until I opened my mouth and said the words to my wife, I want to be a girl. Then the subsequent therapy sessions after that, which would never have happened if I'd never said those things that I'd said. And my wife, God bless her soul, insisted that I go and see a therapist. I'm sorry if I'm covering over old ground here, but I'm just trying to answer this. And if you haven't seen my other videos and this is the first one you've ever watched, well, here's an insight into my journey, my story. That's all I'm doing, just telling my story. So, you know, through those early therapy sessions with the gender therapist, you know, the word transgender was thrown around, but it really didn't resonate with me. It didn't really stick with me. I don't think I'd made the connection yet with the feelings that I'd been having and the thoughts that I've been having for forever, and the fact that I could possibly be transgender, because we all have this internalized transphobia within us. I mean, one of the reasons why I didn't come out for so long is because I was scared of who I was. I was scared of facing my truth, and what was that going to mean for me? What was that going to mean for my family, for my career, for everything that I'd built, all the things that I'd achieved over my lifetime? And I'm not just talking about material possessions, I'm talking about like relationships and my brand as a professional, all the things that I'd worked so hard to achieve and establish myself. What was going to happen with all that? And this is this huge big roll of the dice that, I mean, I'm assuming that most trans people experience this. I know I certainly did. It was that conjuring up that courage to say those words out loud. It's like you're at the casino and you slide your entire life onto the table and you kind of say, I'm all in. This can probably go one of two ways. I can lose it all and I'm back to square one, I'm back to scratch. I mean, I don't even know what that would have felt like and looked like. Of course, now somebody's got the whippersnipper going. It's Monday morning, for crying out loud. Anyway, the other side is that you win the gamble, that it pays off. And thankfully, in my case, it's paying off. I mean, it's I can't believe how lucky I am, you know, to continue on with the gambling analogy. I mean, the biggest part of gambling is luck, right? And on this particular bet, where I bet everything, I won. So that was the point. That was when I made the connection and I kind of went, okay, so that means I'm transgender. And it was a retrospective realization. It wasn't a looking towards the future at that point. It was definitely looking in the rearview mirror and piecing together all those things that had happened throughout my life, all the signs that were there. And it was like, oh my God, like how obvious was it that that's exactly who I am? And then that began the path of self-acceptance, because that doesn't just happen. I mean, maybe it did for you if you're watching this and you've been through this and you got to that part about the self-acceptance. It's that for me, on this journey, has probably been the hardest, most, probably the hardest part is coming to terms with who you are, really coming to terms with who you are and really accepting your true self. I mean, that's the reason why I was in denial for all those years. I was miles away from accepting who I really was. So at the core of it all, it's the most important thing. The most challenging and most difficult part of transitioning, in my opinion, is the self-acceptance. And that's probably should have been the topic for this video. But in saying that too, it's also the most rewarding part of it, because once you get there, once you get to that point where you just say, that's just who I am. I accept who I am, and I actually like who I am, and I actually love who I am. That's the part where all the doors just start to open up, and all the, what other cheesy analogy can I throw at this, but everything just starts to fall in place. I'm not saying it's easy peasy from there, because as any of you know that have or are transitioning, there's pitfalls and roadblocks and all sorts of things along the way that you've got to navigate. And you know, we're talking about going through a second puberty at 30, 48. So that presents a whole bunch of firsts, new things that you've never experienced before. But if you can just frame your mind to think that these are wonderful experiences, and sort of prepare yourself that there will be some tough times and some challenging times, and the more of those you go through, the better you learn to cope, and the quicker you can recover and get back on track and focus on the good stuff. So I hope I answered that question. When did I know I was trans? Pretty late on. When did I know something was different? Very early on. When did I do something about it? Very late. But I don't have any regrets about that, because unless I'm unaware, time travel doesn't exist, so I can't go back in time. And I commented just recently on somebody else's post who was having concerns about how late is too late to transition. It's never too late. It is never too late. And the best time to transition is when you're ready. That first day you put on that first patch, or take your pill, or have your injection, whichever way you administer your hormones. That first day, that's the best day. That's the perfect time for you to start transitioning, and that was the perfect time for me. Like, everything in my life had led up to that moment. I could have held regret, and you know what, I did for a little while. There are certain things you've got to work through, and that's part of the whole self-acceptance piece. That's part of coming to terms with who you are and forgiving yourself for your past actions or lack of action. Forgiving yourself and actually truly loving yourself for who you are, and really appreciating the person that you are, because that person is what got you to this point. So all those things, I could sit here with regret of all the reasons why I didn't transition 20, 30 years ago, but the reality is I didn't transition 20, 30 years ago. I'm doing it now. And that person that got me here, that's a pretty cool person, in my opinion. I haven't always held that opinion of myself, but I'm telling you, the self-acceptance piece, that's the headline here. That should be up in the flashing lights. That's, I think, when in the brochure, when they talk about transitioning, I think that really should be called out and highlighted, because once you get that down, once you nail that part, it's a lot easier. Not easy, but easier. All right, so I think I've well and truly answered that. Thank you once again. We're almost at another 20-minute video. I love all you beautiful people out there that have subscribed to my channel. This is fantastic. I think it's nearly over, I'll be over 15,000 views or something now. Like, little old me, 15,000 views. Like, I think about an auditorium or a stadium, and think about physically putting 15,000 people into that space, and that would be quite a sight to see, quite a spectacle. But in reality, that's how many people, you people, have viewed my content, and I hope that continues. So thank you again. Thanks for listening to me. I really appreciate the love and support that I get, and I'm so glad to be back and feeling myself, and hopefully we can get some more content out. So if there's something you would like me to talk about, please pop it in the comments or send me a message, and I'll do my best to answer. All right, bye.